What's up, my dudes? Monster Indy Supercross, the official video game. Oh, this is going to be a fun video to make right here. Isn't it interesting how when the time passes and the years go by and the hype dies out, isn't it funny how people start to see things differently? Isn't it funny how you start to compare, oh, this is how Supercross 3 is, right? And why the hell was this not like this in the first Supercross game? You know, you start being able to compare these things. Listen, I've been right all along about that first Supercross game. I was right all along. And it's taken so many of you guys so long to actually understand what I was saying in those original rant videos and all those different elements. And, you know, it was such literally the most overhyped motocross game there ever has been and ever will be. I'm just going to come out and say it right now. That first official Supercross game is the biggest, most hyped. It was just insane. It was crazy. The hype for that game. It didn't even make sense. The first official Supercross game was painfully average. It is a painfully average motocross game, period. And let me just say this right off the bat. This game is perfect if you are a super casual motocross gaming fan. You want to hop in there and play it for like 25 hours or 10 hours or something like that, right? It is the most perfect game for that. It's great for that. I mean, I'm just being straight up. Like, you know, you get in there, you go through the campaign, you see all the different tracks, you got amazing graphics, you've got amazing official riders, you've got, you know, official tracks and all that stuff. The game is perfect for that. So if you're that kind of super casual motocross gamer, you probably love the game. But if you are literally anything more than that, it really is not your kind of game. It really, when you start digging deeper, it just does not have the replayability value and the depth and the actual feeling to the bike. It doesn't even really have a feeling to the bike. There really is non-existent inertia in the first official Supercross game. You were fooled. You do realize that, right? You were tricked by an amazing title, an official Supercross game that we hadn't had in forever, and amazing graphics. You do realize you were tricked, right? Just hoping you understand that, because when you get to the actual game, it is mind-baffling how basic and simplistic and beginner-friendly, you know, no depth kind of gameplay the game really has. Okay, so let me just remind you about the few things that first official Supercross game had. When you get out of that little honeymoon stage and you start looking at the actual game and not just the graphics and the official riders and the official tracks, okay, once you actually start looking at the game, you never popped off the bike. Literally ever. Does not matter if you know, come up short on a 100-foot triple, as bad as you could possibly imagine it. You know, in real life, you would totally split the bike in half or completely bounce up to the moon and back, you know, Justin Barcia style. It does not matter. If you do that, you can over jump some 300-foot jump on a custom track way out into the flats. You're still not going to pop off the bike. There is no popping off of the bike system at all. So that's just one little thing right there that completely eliminates all of the, you know, skill gap, the fear of coming up short or over jumping something, having to time jumps out. It was literally like a mobile motocross game in that sense. Okay, so just that fact alone nearly completely ruined the game for me personally. But then you get to the whole whip system, right? And it's funny because they kind of tricked you into making it seem like it was this this decent whip system. Look at how far they're throwing the whips out. But in reality, when you dig a little deeper and you actually realize what's going on, all it is a hitting a button and playing an animation whip system. Just like how Mud has, where when you get up in the air on any jump, you just hold down the A button and it'll throw a whip, and then you let off the A button and it comes back around and you land on the ground, right? That old school hit a button, play an animation whip system. That is what it is in the first official Supercross game. But instead of hitting the A button to do a whip, you're just turning both your thumbsticks the opposite direction, and it's initiating the whip system of the game. It's initiating the whip animation of the game, and then it just pulls itself back around and you land the bike. Literally no whoop skill gap at all. Zip, zero, zilch, none, nada. It's not there. There's none. No whoop skill gap, not even in the slightest. Literally everybody and their grandmother hit every single whoop section in the first official Supercross game wide ass open without even looking. That's just another one of those aspects. You see what I'm saying? When you start to dig a little deeper, yeah, the game's okay for Timmy Two Shoes 5-year-old that watches real life Supercross on TV and he just wants to hop in there and play some, something that looks like the real life Supercross. Yeah, it's okay for that. But when you start trying to go down this road of acting like this game was so good physics-wise or had good error physics or whatever the hell, or you start trying to compare it to some of these other, actual good physics motocross games, you're blind, you're oblivious, you don't understand what you're really saying, because when you dig down into these issues to the actual gameplay, the physics of the bike, it's insane how many problems the first official Supercross game had. But that's the thing, that's the facade, that's the trick that it plays on you. It makes you think it's not as bad because the graphics are so amazing in that game for its time, and all of the official tracks and the official sponsors and the Monster Energy logos, and playing as Ryan Dungey or any of your favorite official riders, and oh my god, I'm actually playing the official Monster Energy Supercross game, and I haven't been able to play an official Supercross game in so long. All of those things come together to completely warp and trick your mind into thinking that the actual gameplay is way better than what it really was. So the thing about it is there's so many of these little quirky, weird, buggy things about the first Supercross game that just sort of diminish that overall experience for me personally. Just for instance, one of the really weird things is the literal feeling like you're going absolute warp speed, absolute light speed on every track, everywhere on every track, no matter if you're going 25 miles an hour or 60 miles an hour, it doesn't matter. It still feels like you're literally flying, like literally just about to take off and fly away. Your speed in the game is so fast, like how fast the actual, objects and everything is moving past you on the screen. The actual speed feeling of the game is way, way too high. I don't know why they ended up doing that, but I swear to God, it almost gives me like a nauseous feeling whenever I try to go back and play the first Supercross game. And I'm not one of those kind of people that gets nauseous playing video games. And I'm telling you, I get like a weird vibe feeling playing the first Supercross game just because it just feels like you are constantly going like the maximum of the maximum speed of any dirt bike game ever the whole time. It's not just when you're going full speed. You feel like you're going that fast when you're going 15 miles an hour in the game. It's insane. So it has this really weird feeling of like you don't really feel like you're going from a slow speed and then working your way up to a really fast speed. It just feels like you're either stopped or you're going wicked fast everywhere on the track. So that's another one of those little things that just sort of, kills the overall experience. There's another little weird buggy thing where, Even if you wanted to try to kind of lean back and seat bounce the bike, you can't even fucking do it, because if you barely pull back too far in the air, you literally just instantly pop off of the bike like somebody shot you out off of the bike out of the stadium, like a sniper up in the stadium just decided to shoot you right off of the bike. It's the stupidest thing ever. I cannot believe a modern day AAA $60 Supercross game would have where you barely lean back on the bike and just instantly pop off the bike. It's not like you're doing a backflip and you pop off. I'm talking you just barely lean too far back and you just pop off the bike in the air. It's insane. It makes no sense. So, you know, there's all kinds of little quirky things like that. There is literally, I am telling you, literally zero actual gravitational pull, actual weight to the bike when you jump in the air in the first Supercross game. There's none. There is absolutely none. Like, the way it feels on the ground is the exact same way that it feels in the air, which is terrible for a Supercross game. It does not feel like when you jump off of a jump face, you're actually jumping up in the air, and then you get to an apex, and then the gravity starts pulling you back down. There's just none of that actual in-air physics, inertia, gravitational pull. There's literally none of it. Absolutely none of it. So, you know, it is the definition of that sort of just fake in-air feeling to a dirt bike game. It really is. So, you know, there's just so many little things like that that's just hard to explain to people, like when they first start playing the game and they first get into the game. It's just hard to explain those things because those aren't necessarily things you might notice like right away. That's what I'm saying. The first Supercross game is a great game to play for like 10 to 20 hours, but that is it. That's pushing it right there. But it is the furthest thing from a game that you are actually going to really put time into, you know, have a rewarding feeling to getting a lot faster in the game, because everybody's fast in the game. Everybody feels like they're going lightning fast, hitting every single rhythm in the game like their second day playing the game, their first day playing the game. There is no real progression to the skill in the game. I know some of the pro first Supercross games act like there's this big skill gap to it. No, there's fucking not. You've just sat there and played the game 10 trillion hours, so you go 0.1 second faster than, you know, somebody else on a track, but it's not pure, proper arcade motocross game skill gap range. There's just really none of it. There really is none of it. You hop on there, you feel like you're James Stewart on lap 3 of any track. You're hitting the whoops wide open on lap 2. You're hitting every rhythm on every track the second lap on it. There's just no depth. There's nothing really to the game. It is the most facade, looks like it's one kind of thing, but it's really not kind of games that there is out there. It is the most of that kind of thing I can possibly think of. It looks like it's one thing, but it really isn't when you get into the actual gameplay of it. It's really just not. So that was some of the really terrible things about the actual, you know, on the bike gameplay. But when you start getting into the content of the game, oh my God, that's a whole nother story. So you boys do realize the only track content that you got in the first official Supercross game, the only tracks you got in the entire game were the 16 or 17 rounds of the official Supercross series. That was it. That was it. There was no free ride tracks, no motocross tracks, no cool outdoor Supercross testing tracks like what you have in Supercross 3. There was no enduro tracks. There was no, no compound track. There was nothing like that. There was no enduro cross. There was literally no other track content than the 16 rounds of the official Supercross series. That was it. I've never seen a game so hyped with such low amount of content in my life. The first official Supercross game, for the amount of content that it had in it, should have been a $30 game. I hope some of you guys realize that. When you start comparing the content that you get in that game to what you got like in Reflex or Unleashed, in those kind of games, it doesn't even make sense. you used to get at least 3 full-blown free ride compounds, full-blown free ride tracks, multiple different biomes, Supercross and motocross and enduro in the same game. A lot of times there was waypoint, sometimes there was, hill climb tracks. There was always literally double or triple the amount of track content in all of those motocross games that we had before than what we actually ended up getting with the first official Supercross game. It did not even have a free ride track in it, bro. It's just like, what in the hell? That doesn't even make sense. And then on top of that, they had the audacity to not give you the free ride track that you deserved in a AAA $60 game. They had the audacity to charge you for their one and only, that desert free ride track that they had as paid DLC later on in the life cycle of the game. That 1000% should have just been in that game from the beginning. No questions asked. Should have been in there. Didn't MXGP3, for God's sakes, have a damn free ride compound in it? Hello? I know it had one in it because I can remember it in my head. It was actually pretty sick. MXGP3 had a fucking free ride compound in it. And then Supercross 3, the game that came out after that, didn't even have one in it. And then they charge you as paid DLC for their one and only free ride compound. Guys, how in the hell can you call this game one of the greatest, dirt bike games of all time? You are insane if you think that. You just don't understand it. You do not understand it. And going into the whole, it wasn't supposed to have motocross tracks, Spencer, because it was the official Supercross games, right? It's the official Supercross game. It's not supposed to have any other kind of track content like a free ride track or, outdoor tracks, motocross tracks. It's not supposed to have that. Why would it have that? It's the official Supercross game. Well, let me just explain something to you. Let's just, take a little step back in time to a little game called MXGP2, the official motocross game that literally had four in-stadium Supercross tracks in it, right? You do remember that, right? Oh, damn, this wasn't the first time Milestone had Supercross and motocross tracks in the same game? Holy shit, it's crazy, bro. But yet they act like these super come out of the woodwork, defend the first official Supercross game till they're blue in the face kind of people out there. They just don't want to accept that. They don't want to accept that the first official Supercross game should have at least had 3 or 4 motocross tracks in it at the bare minimum, just for a little bit of extra track content. Like, holy crap. They had Supercross tracks in their official MXGP2 motocross game. They already did this before. They already had a free ride compound in MXGP3. They already did that before. And they had none of that when the first official Supercross game came out. It's called lazy, is what it's called. It's called quick money cash grab. Let's hype everybody up. Let's make a crazy amazing title. Let's get official sponsors. Let's get official riders. Let's get amazing graphics, but fuck everything else. That is the definition of the first official Supercross game. I'm just telling you. It doesn't even make sense. Yeah, it's okay to hop in there and play the game for I call it a, like a 1 week game or a 2 or 3 day kind of game. It's fun to hop in there and be like, oh, an official Supercross game. Look at all this stuff. Let's go ride on all the tracks 2 or 3 times. But then there's no longevity to the first official Supercross game. There's no real long-term replayability. You got to see it for what it was. You got to see it for what it really was. And I said all this from the very beginning. I tried to warn you guys. And what more can prove my point than Supercross 3 coming out, them totally changing everything they were doing with their leaning system. You can actually huck the bike in Supercross 3. There's, an actual whip system to the game where you can do multiple different types of whips, and it doesn't just completely feel like you're just hitting one button and playing one whip animation every time you come off the jump face. And actually having a risk to coming up short on stuff where you can pop off the bike, you can lose momentum for coming up short. The whoops have more skill gap. Why would they do all that if I was so wrong? Why would they do all those things with Supercross 3 if I was so wrong about the first Supercross game? That's what I'm saying. The Supercross 3 is what Supercross 1 should have been. Straight up. That is just factual information right there. There is just no excuse to have that basic of a physics system and an in-air whip system and content and all that. There's just no excuse for that. In a $60 game that is hyped up to that level, there is just no excuse for it. It's just so the opposite of what it was portrayed as, right? It was portrayed as going to be this super amazing, realistic, the most realistic, dirt bike gaming experience you can have. Oh my God, get super hyped. And the gameplay is literally one of the most mobile game, no inertia, no filling to the bike games there ever has been for its time. I'm serious. And that's what makes it painfully average, right? It's got such an amazing title, such an amazing idea behind it, really amazing graphics and the way the tracks look and the way the riders look and all that. All that stuff is great. All of it's amazing. But the whole other half of the game, the filling on the bike, the gameplay, the content, all that kind of stuff was just terrible. It completely drug the game down. So that's why it's painfully average, because it's amazing in some ways. Some of the best in any arcade motocross game in some ways, but then it's also some of the worst of any arcade motocross game in a lot of the other ways. So that's kind of what it comes down to, right? It's like, are you one of those kind of people that just don't care about the gameplay? You don't care about the in-air whip system. You don't care about the different kind of track content and actually having proper amounts of different stuff to do in the game. You don't care about any of that. All you care about is the graphics and the official riders and the Monster Energy logos. If you're that kind of person, yeah, the game was perfect for you, right? If you're that kind of person that just hops in a AAA $60 motocross game or Supercross game and you just play it for a few days and then you just quit playing it, yeah, the game was perfect for that. And I feel like so many people bought the game and they're those kind of motocross gamers, right? But if you're the kind of person that wants to get invested into a game, you want to get into the gameplay, you want to become a lot better and be able to separate yourself and have skill gap and have different kinds of track content and have super deep gameplay and have longevity and replayability, that first official Supercross game was not your game at all. Literally not at all. Right? So you have that spectrum between super beginner, casual, friendly kind of games, all the way to the spectrum of simulator, hardcore, you got to play it every day, you got to dedicate your life to it, right? If I could put the first official Supercross game somewhere along that spectrum, it is almost all the way to the casual, way too easy, way too basic physics of a game, right? If you compare it to the gameplay of Reflex, oh my God, it's mind-baffling. It's atrocious. It's a disgrace. It is not even comparable. That's how much worse the first official Supercross game's physics really were compared to Reflex. And it's all a facade, right? That's what I've been trying to get at. People don't understand this. They made it to where it makes it feel like you're going faster on the bike in the first Supercross game. They made how fast the screen is how fast everything's passing by you on the screen a lot faster than in previous milestone games. So it made you feel like you were going faster. You could hit a whoop section wide open the first day in the game. You could hit any jump in the entire game. No rhythm skill gap. No nothing. So you could literally be technically James Stewart in the game your first day playing the game, right? So then it gives people all this weird warped... You're going to have more fun with the first official Supercross game the first couple days playing it than you are a lot of other motocross games, but the deeper you get into it, you realize the replayability and the fun factor and everything to the game just has a absolute 100% drop off right down to the bottom of the barrel. All of that stuff just gets killed once you get whatever, 50 hours into the game or 25 hours into the game, there's just nothing left. There's nothing left to the game. And so that's what's so different about that than like a Reflex or some of these other, motocross games, supercross games out here. So either way, the most not what it seems to be dirt bike game there will ever be. That's what the first official Supercross game is. You got to understand, man, like, it came out in 2017, if I'm not mistaken? Because 2018, Supercross 2, 2019, or it came out in 2018, I guess. But it was based off of the tracks from 2017, right? And the riders from 2017, the year Dungey won it over Tomac. So, for a game coming out in 2018, you just would have expected more out of the gameplay and the content of the game. You just would have expected more. A lot more. I mean, it's just crazy. It just comes down to it's more of a mobile game. It's more of a, hey, Grandma, come play the first official Supercross game with me, right? It's more of that kind of game. That's just what it is. But that's the thing. So many people try to act like it was so realistic, or the physics weren't that bad. Oh my God, the whips aren't that bad. Look at them. Look how far I'm whipping it over. You idiot. You realize you're just hitting a button and playing an animation, right? That's not even really a whip system. You realize the bike doesn't even have inertia or gravity or weight or anything, or a pop-off system or a come up short and lose momentum system or anything. The whoops have no skill gap. The tracks have no rhythms. It was all a facade. It was all a big trick. It was all a cash money grab. They knew what they were doing. They knew they were going to make a lot of money. And so that's just what you got at the end of the day. So what I'm getting at is it sucks that we couldn't have had the physics and the content of what Supercross 3 is in the first official Supercross game, and it would have just made the first official Supercross game better in every way. It just would have made it better. I don't understand why we couldn't have had that. They rushed it out the door. They focused on all the things that they knew was going to sell the copies, but they didn't care what really happened afterwards, right? So that's what happened. And I said all this from the very beginning. How much more proof do you need than Supercross 3? Literally doing everything that I told them to do in the first official Supercross game, almost to a T. Like, literally, it's almost like they've done everything I've said and nothing that I haven't said. I'm being serious. So it's just like, they give you more of the outdoor Supercross track content in Supercross 3 with the training tracks. They give you a compound for free. They give you more movement on the bike. They give you a full-blown whip system where you can turn both thumbsticks the same direction to whip. You can do oppo whips. You can pop off the bike coming up short. There's literally 2 or 3 times the rhythm skill gap in Supercross 3 than you had in the first Supercross game. There's just so many elements to it. It's insane when you go back and look at some of those rant videos of mine. It's literally like they just, and I'm not saying they just took what I said and did that in Supercross 3 directly, but whatever the case may be, whether they took some of my opinions or not, all I'm saying is Supercross 3 is pretty much exactly what I was saying Supercross 1 was supposed to be, almost to a T. So, again, if I was so wrong, then why have they done everything that I said? I was never wrong.